from the air. This is what relief responders are trying to assist in the recovery beginning. This is what has been left after Dorian, the strongest hurricane on record. At least 20 people are dead. That's the number expected to rise. Many people still trying to locate loved ones because of all of this devastation, and communication is still weak. They do not know. So really, even on this day, Thursday morning, the full extent of the damage and the loss is still being revealed. You see those aerial pictures, and we have been showing so many of them from different perspectives. My next guest has had that aerial perspective and then has been right down on the ground, and he's going to tell us about it this morning. I want to introduce you to Toby Smith, who flew a helicopter from his company right over and onto Abaco after Hurricane Dorian. Toby, a pleasure to meet you this morning. You're in Nassau there. It looks like a nice day in Nassau, but thanks for being on our program today.
Thank you very much for having me, Heather.
We were just looking at some aerial shots. I'm going to ask that we run yours that you specifically took. It's been jaw-dropping, the images from the air. As you're flying over and filming this, just describe your impressions and what you're seeing.
Right, so there's two islands the two main areas that got hit is Abaco and Grand Bahama, which is in the northern Bahamas. Nassau is fine. We got a small skirmish of high winds, but that's about it. Yeah, it was absolutely leveled. It's devastating. It's completely devastated is the only way I could put it.
What we've been hearing is that maybe half of all the houses and buildings have been completely flattened. Would that be an assessment of the extent as you saw it?
No, from what I saw in northern Abaco, which has various different islands, I mean 90 to 100% in some of the islands, it's just all completely gone. Wooden structures are completely gone. Concrete structures that have concrete walls we've got a very strict building code. Walls knocked out, the roof's torn off. There's no power. The power lines are all blown down. There's no electricity, no water, no cell phone, no landlines. There's absolutely nothing. So people are stranded without being able to contact their loved ones in other islands to let them know that they're okay. So it's an exercise in keeping faith and despair.
Well, that's even worse than some of the things that we're hearing, but it helps me understand one quote that I read from someone saying it looked like a bomb went off, that sort of total obliteration that you saw from the air. But then when you touched down on Abaco, you were able to set your helicopter down, and we have video of you on the ground. So can we watch this together, and then I'll ask you a little bit more about it, okay? Let's take a look at this video of Toby Smith.
Hi, all right, so all around me, I'm in Marsh Harbour. This is absolute devastation. I have never seen anything like this in Abaco. I've seen it in Long Island, but just complete devastation. There's one concrete building standing over there. I mean, even this is a concrete building with reinforced rebar concrete, and the roof's caved in.
So you got the close-up look, total devastation from the ground. And as you mentioned, I mean, we know the Bahamas have, as you said, strong building codes and standards, and yet with the strength of Dorian, even those buildings just flattened. Tell me a little bit more about what you saw on the ground there, Toby.
So as far as the building perspective, it was just leveled. I mean, there's shipping containers hundreds of yards pushed into town. Fortunately, the government dock there is in good shape. I managed to walk out there. My journey was from the government clinic. It was actually a very gracious person that I know that gave me a seat on the helicopter. But it was, I had to jog from the government clinic. There was no transportation available, obviously, and get to a Latin long point where I was told that my friend needed to be medevaced out as he has pneumonia. So I got a call to say if I don't get there, if he doesn't get medevaced out, he's probably not going to make it. So that was added adrenaline and incentive to get up there and get him out. And ironically, it was he that got me into sort of search and rescue. So I ran to where he was. They told me he was actually where I landed. So I had to run back to the clinic. The U.S. Coast Guard is doing an amazing job in putting assets into the Bahamas to help us out. And I found him in the accident and emergency at the hospital. I found him at the accident emergency at the clinic locally there, and then the U.S. Coast Guard medevaced him out. The helicopter that I arrived in was fortunately there, and I managed to jump on the chopper and meet him back in Nassau and then into the hospital here in Nassau. But that's the case for hundreds of people right now getting medevaced out by the U.S. Coast Guard. Everybody's pitching in. There's a good sense of calm, togetherness. We're Bahamians, we're strong. We help each other out.
Resilient and strong, and yet I can just hear the emotion in your voice as you talk about your friend and also the situation. I mean, we're talking about this as being generational devastation. Look ahead to getting out of this.
Yeah, well, we felt it with Hurricane Joaquin a few years ago, and I bounced in as quick as I could bounce in there. This isn't like that, though. That was a few thousand people in Long Island that we helped, and this is way more extensive. It's not limited to Abaco. It remained stationary over Grand Bahama and dumped a lot of rain, a lot of winds. I tell people, imagine driving at 185 miles an hour with your head out the window for a day. There's nothing, there's no trees, there's complete, it did look like a bomb went off there, yes.
Unbelievable. So you got your friend out safely, which is great. You left some supplies behind. You were able to do some of that to help. And do you think
Yes.
you're going to be continuing to do any more of the relief yourself?
Yeah, we're strong. There's a good group of people that Head Knowles is a non-profit organization, and they're doing an amazing job in getting supplies in there. It's still early days. I was at the aviation hangar 2 days ago, just waiting all day, trying to hitchhike and asking everybody that I knew, can I catch a ride up there? And then I actually got a fortune cookie saying tomorrow's going to be an important day for you. And sure enough, it was an important day yesterday.
Wow. Why is this so emotional for you, Toby?
Because people have to look after their mental health. When you witness things like that and see people in despair, I went through it with Hurricane Joaquin. I did it in the aftermath of the earthquake in Haiti. And the stuff that you see, the stuff that you bring back. But being there, I was fully prepared. I had bags to camp out, a tent, a tarpaulin, ropes, emergency gear and whatnot. But with no communication up there, I felt that my time would best be spent in Nassau and trying to push things into Abaco and Grand Bahama rather than me being there with no communication. So that's why I jumped back on a helicopter and came back, and we're trying to get vessels in there. The British Army is up there, U.S. Coast Guard, lots of people are rendering assistance internationally.
Yes.
But yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, it's good to have people like you trying to help people who are in such tremendous need, and you will be happy to know we were just talking on the program with somebody in Montreal who's doing some fundraising with Head Knowles, the exact organization you mentioned, to try to get some aid from Canada too. So thank you for the time. We'll stay in touch, Toby. We really appreciate the conversation this morning.
Good morning, Canada. Thank you very much. Bahamas strong.
Toby Smith in Nassau.